for those unindoctrinated, first, what is CUI and why is it such a pain in the butt for designers?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think it's maybe a pain in the butt for some designers and some contractors, right? CUI is controlled unclassified information, and that is basically a way, and I'll just very, very succinctly state it as identifying sensitive information that is government related that should not be in the hands of public or just out there for people. So sensitive information. There's lots of layers to that, by the way. It's not that simple, but CUI is related to that, the sensitive information for projects for federal work.
So it is almost like GDPR, but just for on a federal side. Probably a lot of the same pain points a lot of startups are having with trying to maintain GDPR in
well, I think your GDPR is focused on the individual sort of privacy data for individuals, but we're talking, anything from floor plans, site scans, even memos on information around project development. These are all, potential, RFI data, anything like that could be considered classified CUI. And if it's classified CUI, it has to be treated in a certain way, and therefore what our meeting last summer, or last year, anyhow, when we did the digital delivery impacts of cybersecurity and information privacy on digital delivery, mouthful, but a great session in DC, and we had 50 or so. It was an exclusive group, but very diverse group, talking about the impact of cybersecurity on our digital delivery. And that again, CUI is like a very important piece of sensitive information that we need to protect. So how do we do that in terms of our technology adoption as we deliver these projects more and more and more through fully digitized and computer-enabled methods? And it sounds like I'm talking about 1991. I'm like, we're going to use the computer one day to do this.
Yeah.
But
But as you take a step back to digital practice leader for HDR, and it basically is impossible to mix your private project data with your federal project data because of this CUI. So you have to have separate systems and create those controls.
Yeah. So if you look at CMMC, and please don't ask me to remind you or to iterate what CMMC.
I wouldn't remember anyway.
Yeah, I was like, and NIST 1800-171. So these are requirements that specify how this type of sensitive data and whatnot should be handled, how you should set up your systems. This goes really deep into IT, and there's a lot of configuration, a lot of work that goes into making sure things are protected and secured. I remember a dozen years ago walking into one of our offices in the DC area, and I felt like I was going to be... I was all but strip searched and fingerprinted before I went into this room. And literally, you've got to sign away all this, and it's requirements for nationality and things like that, because there's practices around securing that. So it's not only the digital, but it's also the physical securing of these spaces that kind of go hand in hand. So there's a lot around our federal. In particular, it gets called out federal, but if you think of sensitive data and sensitive information, that goes to our private clients as well. Some of them have really strict requirements for sensitive IP. You think about what happened, and it's all in the news, right? These big, organizations like I think Disney, right? A long time, was it a couple of years ago? And subject to hacking, and that's a big fear for our clients that have IP to protect. So it's not just federal. We're still going to see that with others as well.
Yeah, we can talk about the pain points, but why does it exist? Oh, because of these other really catastrophic pain points of leaks. And so, it makes sense why they have to have these very, very strict requirements. And it's either spend a lot of money to comply with it or figure out a way to go around, which is kind of scary, right? Because then that's the exposure, that's the risk.
I would hope people aren't shortcutting it necessarily, but I do think it's going to make a difference in terms of who's doing that kind of work. Because if you can't comply and you can't meet those requirements, it may just shut you out of that work. So that's a concern just industry-wide. It's a concern for how we allow diversity in scale of business, to be able to do business.